Okay. Welcome, everyone. We are back here in Centro de Información Facebook Live. We are going to present our monthly presentations with our partners of Social Security Administration, who this month is presenting Working While Disabled. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And Megan, thanks and welcome back.
Yes, thanks for having me. Yeah, so today we want to go through some information on our many different work incentives. And I'll just start by saying we're going to cover a lot today. And just know we're just giving you the information for you to have. But if you are interested in more information or discussing this more, of course, there's always more information on socialsecurity.gov. And you can also call in to speak to somebody at the local office to walk through questions on this, because it does have a lot of details to it. We just want to make sure to get the information out to you to let you know about our different options we have. So one of our frequently asked questions that we receive and that we actually have listed on our frequently asked questions on socialsecurity.gov is, can I return to work while getting disability benefits? About our different options we have. So one of our frequently asked questions that we receive. The answer is yes. You can return to work while receiving Social Security disability or supplemental security income benefits. So we kind of talked last month about our two different disability programs, the Social Security Disability or SSI, Supplemental Security Income. And this month, we're going to get into the different work rules with those two programs. So first, we're going to start off explaining a term that we use at Social Security called substantial gainful activity. And this is a term we talked about a little bit in making a medical decision. It's what we use to determine if somebody meets our definition of disability when they file, but it's also a term that we use after the fact when dealing with Social Security disability. So what we consider to be substantial work or substantial gainful activity is a dollar figure. And so this changes from year to year if we have a cost of living increase. But for 2021, individuals averaging $1,310 gross or more are considered to be performing substantial gainful activity generally. And we'll talk about some exceptions in a little bit. If somebody is blind or visually impaired, that's a higher amount. That's $2,190. So for SSI, the only time we use this definition is when someone is first applying and getting their medical decision. But for Social Security disability, we continue to use this definition throughout the time someone is on benefits. Now, when someone is thinking about returning to work, we want them to know that we have different work incentives. So work incentives are employment support provisions that assist someone in returning to work, maybe to become completely independent off of Social Security or SSI, or maybe just to help someone get a part-time job and be able to work while also still receiving benefits. So both of those scenarios can happen. Something we look at when deciding if someone is performing substantial gainful activity and how much we're going to count of their work is if they are working with a subsidy or under special conditions. So again, we're going to cover a lot of terms, and these will all be listed in our website with more information, as well as you can look them over and, talk to somebody at our offices if you have questions. But a subsidy is when you are receiving extra support from an employer that may result in you receiving more pay than the actual value of your work you perform. So let's say that you have a medical condition and you have the exact same job as another person at your place of employment. So you both have the exact same job description, but maybe you're able to do about 70% of the work that your coworker does, but you're both paid at the same rate. So that would be a subsidy. Then special conditions would be some extra support or on-the-job assistance that you receive from your employer or by someone other than your employer, such as a vocational rehabilitation agency that helps you to perform your job. So those are both types of things that we're going to look at when we're considering the value of work you're performing. So maybe you are making over that substantial gainful activity, but you have a subsidy or you work under a special condition. We might be able to lower the amount of dollar figure that we count of your earnings based on those conditions or special conditions or subsidies you work under. So whenever you file for benefits, if you're currently working, or later on, if you return to work after receiving benefits and you're on Social Security disability, we're going to send a work activity report and we're going to ask about if you have any of those subsidies or special conditions you're working under, and then we'll evaluate those with your work. Then we have something called an unsuccessful work attempt. This is maybe you return to work, but you have to stop or reduce your work below substantial gainful activity within a short time. So within 6 months, because of your impairment or because you had those special conditions and they were removed and you're no longer able to do your work. So in those situations, we can sometimes write off that work attempt if it qualifies as the unsuccessful work attempt. We have impairment-related work expenses. These are another thing we can use to reduce your countable income. So again, maybe you're working a little over substantial gainful activity, but you have these things. Don't hesitate to file if you think you might have things that put you under that substantial gainful activity. We also use these after you're awarded benefits, the impairment-related work expenses, to decrease the amount of countable income. So this might be medication you need to be able to work, things like that. What we can do is reduce the amount that you pay out of pocket for these things you need to pay for to be able to work that are related to your medical condition, and reduce your countable income. So you see this example, someone is making $1,310 gross per month, but they have a $75 copay for their medication. Well, then we're going to actually look at $1,275. So that's below substantial gainful activity. And these you can find extensive lists on our socialsecurity.gov website, but some common things that we can deduct are transportation costs, attendant care services, service animals. Like I said, medications are a very common one. I see that a lot, but even other medical devices, prosthesis, modifications you need to be able to get out of your home, to go to work, all sorts of different things. So if you have something you're paying for that you need to be able to work, then you can let us know that too, and we might be able to deduct that. And we have something called a plan for achieving self-support. So this incentive allows for money to be set aside to reach a work goal. And we have specific employees in our agency that will help with these. So I don't want to get into a ton of details on our plan for achieving self-support. We have that link there on the slide, the ssa.gov/forms, SSA 545. That's the form for the plan to achieve self-support. If you're interested in that, there's a lot of details on that page with the form. But also, once you complete that form, we're going to assign it to a specific person in our agency, and they will help you go from there with that plan. But again, it lets you set aside income to achieve a specific goal. So it could be that you want to set aside income from your payments, or set aside income for your wages to be able to go back to school, to reach a certain educational goal for a job. Or it could be something like you want to go to work at a specific employer that requires you to provide your own equipment, and you need to be able to buy that equipment. Those are all different scenarios where you might get that plan for achieving self-support. So again, school or training, uniforms, attendant care, employment services, things like that. Ticket to Work is an initiative we contract out with, and this is allowing help in achieving employment services or vocational rehabilitation services, other support services you may need to be able to get a job. When you are receiving benefits, you might receive this ticket and information in the mail. Just know it's free and voluntary. You don't have to use the ticket, but if you choose to, it'll offer these services for you, and there's no penalty for not using it. So you will, like I said, we contract out with these employment networks and with a work program that helps you with this ticket to work. So their 800 number is different than our toll-free number. If you're interested in more information on the ticket to work, we have information on our website, but otherwise you would call that specific number for ticket to work to get more information on that. And if you get any information in the mail, it'll have that number listed for you as well. So those were some employment services available for both Social Security and supplemental security income. But then we have some specific employment services that are only for one program or the other. So for Social Security disability, and if another great guide for this is our Working While Disabled, how we can help. It outlines all this information, but we have a trial work period. So what this means is if you want to try working, you can work and make as much as you're able to when you're on Social Security disability for 9 months without it affecting your checks. Then after that, what we're going to look at is whether you're performing under this over the substantial gainful activity. So the only time we count a month as a trial work period month is if it is over $940. One moment, please. Sorry about that. So if you're making over $940 gross on Social Security disability, you're going to use one of those trial work period months. But if you're making under that amount, you won't even use a trial work period month. We're not going to look at your work at all as far as considering it for Social Security disability. Now, again, this is 2021's figures we're using. And for self-employment, we look at the hours you're participating in the business. So for self-employment, that's 80 hours is considered a trial work period month. And we're looking at 9 months within a 60-month period. So during that time, even if you're making $4,000 a month, you're going to receive your full Social Security disability insurance check. One thing to note, though, is it cannot begin, this trial work period cannot begin before the month of entitlement or the month of filing. So if you return to work right away, we can't use this trial work period as part of your application process. So because Social Security disability is considered, both of our programs are considered long-term disability. If you return to work above substantial gainful activity within 12 months of your impairment, we also cannot use this trial work period because you're not considered to meet our criteria of long-term disability. We might look at some other things like the unsuccessful work attempt, things like that, but the trial work period would not come into play. And it is possible for your benefits to stop due to medical recovery during your trial work period, but it will not stop because of the amount that you're working and making. After your trial work period ends, then there's a 36-month period of time where if you're over substantial gainful activity, you're not paid your benefits, but if you should drop back under it, then we can pay you the benefits for that month. So again, a large amount of time for you to try out working without risk of completely losing your disability benefits. The extended period of eligibility is going to end the later of the month after the first month of substantial gainful activity after that 36-month period and after re-entitlement, or the second month after a disability cessation due to your work. And then we do have a little bit of a grace period with that extended period of eligibility. So you have your cessation month. That's the first month of work or earnings after your trial work period and over a substantial gainful activity. Then the 2 months after that are your grace period. So again, I know this is a lot of information. We want to make sure we have it available to you, but you are just, if you have too many questions, you just want to call and discuss these options with us at Social Security. I'm actually going to skip through this slide because it's a little complicated in the example, and I just want to cover the basics with you. Expedited reinstatement. So let's say that you finish your trial work period, you get past your extended period of eligibility on the Social Security disability, but you're down the road a bit, even a few years later, and your medical condition again starts preventing you from being able to work. Then we have expedited reinstatement. So this is a safety net that says if your benefits end because of work, and you stop working again below, above the SGA level, and your disability is the same or related to what you were receiving before, you can request us to start your benefits as long as within 5 years of when your benefits ended, and we can pay you benefits for up to 6 months while we make a new medical decision. So normally while you're waiting on a medical decision, you're not receiving any money from us. But if you qualify for expedited reinstatement, we can pay those benefits up to 6 months while you wait on that new medical decision. And you might also be eligible for Medicare or Medicaid during that benefit period. So tons of different options for you to try out work and not risk losing. And like I said, these last bit were Social Security disability. And this also includes a provision for your Medicare. Your Medicare can actually continue for at least 93 months following your trial work period at the last month of that 9-month trial work period. So just know if you're not receiving checks from us, though, that you actually have to pay for your Part B, or if you have Part D premiums, because we're not paying you a check, and normally we take those off your check. However, you could still qualify for the Medicare as long as you do that. So if you're still working, but you don't have adequate health insurance through your employer, you could pay for that Medicare to continue while you're working up to that 93 months. So those were the Social Security disability specific ones. These are for our needs-based program, Supplemental Security or Income, or SSI for short. So for SSI, completely different set of rules. Remember, this is our needs-based program. We're not looking at that substantial gainful activity in the same way as we did for Social Security disability. What we're going to do is take your earnings and your gross earnings. We're going to subtract $65 of the first bit of earnings. And then if you have, after that, we're going to count half of the earnings after that $65. Now, we also have a $20 general income exclusion. So if you have not used that on another type of income, say Social Security or unemployment, something like that, we're going to actually do the $20 onto that $65 after counting half as well. But if you have unearned income, it's going to stay over there on that other exclusion. If you are a student regularly attending school under the age of 22, you can work and make even more before your SSI is affected. For this year, we do not count up to $1,930 gross per month, with a maximum of $7,770 excluded this year. Now, regularly attending school means college or university for at least 8 hours a week, grades 7 through 12, 12 hours a week, or in a training course to prepare for employment for at least 12 hours, unless it's a medical reason that you're missing some of those hours. Homeschooling can also count from accredited homeschools, again, 7 through 12 grades, at least 12 hours a week. So if you are looking for the student earned income exclusion, one thing it's important when you report your work to Social Security, if you're on SSI, make sure we know that you're still a student so we can document that in the computer and make sure this exclusion is applied correctly. With SSI, we do have resource limits. We talked about them a little bit on last month's Facebook Live. But if you have property essential for self-support, we might be able to exclude that above and beyond our usual resource exclusions if you need that property to be able to continue your work. We do get questions about the different provisions we have to allow Medicaid to continue with SSI. And things can get a little confusing for people with these provisions. So we have SSI section 1619A and 1619B, and these both involve your Medicaid continuing. If you're on 1619A and you're working over substantial gainful activity, then we can potentially continue your Medicaid as long as you meet all other eligibility rules, including our income and resource test, and you're still disabled. 1619B, so if you're working over substantially gainful activity for SSI, it means you could still be eligible for a monthly check under 1619. 1619B, you're completely ineligible for that SSI check. You're in non-payment status. But again, as long as you meet all the criteria otherwise, you need the Medicaid to be able to work, we can continue that Medicaid with the state of Illinois. They're going to be corresponding for this program to allow the Medicaid to continue even though you're in non-payment status. But you have to keep up with everything else we need with SSI. So you have to stay under the resource limit. You need to stay under, up with our updates we do from time to time on income and resources so that we know you're meeting all the other criteria for SSI. And then even though you're not getting a check, you can continue your Medicaid. And then within the last, few years or so, maybe a little longer, they have come out with these Achieving a Better Life Experience accounts. And on our socialsecurity.gov on our SSI spotlights, we have an entire spotlight page on these ABLE accounts. And so these are tax advantage accounts for saving funds for qualified individuals relating to education, housing, transportation, health, employment training, all sorts of things. Contributions can be from anyone up to $15,000 per year and have a balance up to $100,000 and still be excluded as a resource. So SSI's resource limit is normally $2,000 for an individual. So quite a different resource limit if it's in that specific account, and they do have all those rules to them. So again, we have a spotlight on those ABLE accounts on socialsecurity.gov. So for a comprehensive guide on all these work incentives, because like I said, lots of information, you're probably thinking, there's no way I'm going to remember that all. I don't expect you to remember it all. We have it all available to you, that Working While Disabled guide, and then the ssa.gov/redbook is a very comprehensive guide with all the information on the different work incentives between these two programs. Just know if you should return to work, then what we want you to do is report it right away. If you start or stop work, or you reduce hours or have changed pay, start paying expenses like we talked about, those impairment-related work expenses, then you want to let us know. You can call, fax, or mail the information. It says in person. We haven't, right now we have very limited in-person visits, so this would not be one of the criteria that qualifies for an in-office appointment, but you can call the 800 number or call the local office to report the work has started or stopped or changed. Once we know that you're working, you can report the income regularly through your My Social Security account, and that's probably the easiest way to report your income, or by calling, mailing, or faxing the information, or calling our toll-free number. Also, if you are an SSI recipient or a parent of an SSI recipient, you can report your wages through a mobile wage reporting app that we have, or a telephone wage reporting service. As I mentioned, if you're interested in contacting your local field office, but rather than our 800 number, there is an option to do that. So if you use our field office locator here, ssa.gov/locator, you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you what your local office phone number, fax number, address is, if you need to mail or fax anything as well. And then I mentioned you can report through your My Social Security account. So you can create one of those if you have not already on our website, socialsecurity.gov/my-account. In addition to reporting your wages, there's a lot of great other things you can do on there: change address, phone number, bank account, if you're receiving Social Security benefits, get proof of income, all sorts of other things that are great resources there. All right. So I know that was a lot of information, but again, you can use our website. You can call us. We're always here for that. We just want you to know that you can return to work with a safety net there to prevent you from completely losing your benefits. Because I know it's a concern a lot of people have, that we're going to cut you off as soon as you start work, and that's not the case. Oh, I can't hear you, Sally. Sally, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Can everyone hear me
okay.
now? Yeah, I
Yes.
had turned myself off mute when I was talking. But thanks, Megan, for all that information. Yes, it is quite a bit of information for everybody, but we provided some links there, the links with your frequent asked questions that could help everyone out there as well. And they could, like you said, reach out to the links of Social Security or call in here at Centro. We could help them out through the process. That is a concern and questions that many people have, you know, being paid during, when they're disabled. And unfortunately, that's happening quite a bit right now. So I greatly appreciate all that information to everybody out here. And hopefully this will benefit those who listen in or checking it out. We'll save this recording not only on our Facebook, but you could check it out on our YouTube channel, which will always have all the Social Security recordings there. So for you to access at any time. So thanks again, Megan, and I'm gonna take a few minutes to promote on, we'll have another session next month. We'll have this session in Spanish at 4:30. So tune in back if you want to hear this in Spanish again. And next month again with my partners in Social Security, we'll come back. Also this Thursday, for those of you listening in, don't forget we have our Centro de Información Gala, our Pillar of Hope thing that we're calling it this year. If you have tickets, you probably have tickets then to our pre-event that starts at 5:45. But other than that, the live session will be on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. this Thursday. Central has a bunch of other activities coming up this month that we asked you guys to call in. We have some flu clinics happening at all 3 of our locations here in Elgin, Carpentersville, and in Hanover Park. Call in to register for a flu shot at no cost to you. We're partnering up with Alameda Health Hospital to provide those flu shots to the community. We have other workshops also that we're going to try in person this time, so and see how that goes. But we're hoping that people come in. We have some set up with age options, you know, that will go over Medicare as well. And then we have one for Alzheimer's. Now that one requires registration. So we hope you guys call in and come and register and get some good and valuable information. And hopefully we'll see everybody at all of our events. Thanks again, Megan. Appreciate that.
See you next month.
I'll see you next month.